Well, hello writers. Welcome to episode number 251 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron. I'm so pleased that you're here with me today in New Zealand as I record this intro. Today we are talking to Mark A. Alvarez II. When we spoke, I was not in New Zealand, so you're going to be flashing back and forth in time as you hear these things. If you watch on the YouTube channel, you will see me in my old office and in different places for the next couple of months because I stacked up so many episodes in order to give myself a little bit of breathing room. So that's happening. But Mark was really, really awesome to talk to. We talk about our own scars and how to show them in our writing. Basically, we talk about writing with the vulnerability. That means we are actually writing with truth and with honesty, with the kind of voice that readers lean in to listen to. So I know you're going to enjoy the interview. Just a little catch up around here. Again, if you are watching on the YouTube channel, number one, did you know there's a YouTube channel? Number two, did you know that you should subscribe to it? I think it's YouTube. Just Google YouTube Rachael Herron or Rachael Herron Writes, and it comes right up. I'm trying to do a little bit more with the YouTube channel these days. So if you did want to watch over there or put it on in the background while you're doing something else, I would love that. But if you're watching on it, you get to see what the inside of a New Zealand bathroom in a hotel looks like. And let me tell you, it is like nothing you have ever seen before, except it is actually like every other bathroom you've ever seen before. Lala, my wife, made a very funny joke on Twitter yesterday, which nobody seemed to think was as funny as I did, but she said that she's starting to get Stockholm Syndrome because she finally understands how all the faucets and taps work. You know how when you're in a hotel room, you can never figure it out, and by the time you start working it out, you're leaving the hotel room. Well, we are in here long enough to figure out how to work every single little thing in this hotel, including all the knobs and taps in the shower bath, which is where we are spending a lot of time because out there, it's basically a 10 by 10 room with a queen size bed in the middle, a tiny desk that I have given to Lala because she is a web developer and she codes and she needs a couple of screens. And I'm a writer. I can curl up in a corner. I can curl up on the bed. I have a standing desk. That is what I am at right now in the bathroom. I'm so glad that I packed it in my suitcase and didn't throw it out a million times. Also, I have like a little riser stand for my computer, and a friend sent to the hotel a little lap desk, which is fantastic when I'm in bed. So I am set up when it comes to that. But the room is tiny. And if I'm talking at this volume, I'm going to annoy everybody. And also if my wife is talking on a meeting at this level, she's going to annoy me. So we repair into the bathroom at this time when we're doing these kind of things, which is pretty hilarious to me. But we are spending a lot of time in this bathroom because there's no place to get away from each other. And I was talking to her yesterday, and actually I'm writing about this for my next Patreon essay, but I'm not tired of her. I don't want to get away from her. She doesn't want to get away from me. It's weird. This is day 10 of 14, trapped in a room. They bring us all our meals to the door. We open the meals after they've left, wearing our mask, bring them inside, eat them on the floor because the desk is too small. But yeah, we're just not tired of each other yet. However, we are both people who value alone time more than anybody else we've ever met. So I don't want to get away from her, but I want to be alone. So this bathtub has been saving us. I've been taking like a 2-hour bath a day. She's taking a 2.5 hour bath a day. That adds up to 4 hours alone, 4.5 hours alone when we do that. So that's been awesome. A lot of tub time. What else has been going on? Really, nothing's been going on because I've been trapped in this room for 10 days. And I say trapped. We are allowed out once a day if we make an appointment. And there's a little yard. There's a parking lot. Small parking lot that you can walk in circles in if you make an appointment. And so we can go out there once a day. Today, my walkies are at 6 p.m. and I will definitely be utilizing that. I usually put a podcast or an audiobook in my ears and I just walk around and around and around and around and around. And I'm wearing a mask, so I can't even smell New Zealand. It's this really strange liminal space we're at, that we are in New Zealand, but we're actually not in New Zealand. I'm recording this on a Thursday. On Monday, we get out and we move to an apartment for a week in Auckland. And we're going to be able to walk around, no masks, because there's no COVID here, knock wood. And just live. We'll be able to live. And I'm super, super, super excited about that. So I will keep you posted on how that is going. Everything else is continuing apace. I'm actually managing to get work done in the hotel room. I don't know why I said actually. There's not much else to do. So of course I'm getting work done. It's a pretty great environment for that. I wanted to quickly thank some new patrons because I haven't done that in a while, I think. Penelope Penn, my friend Penn, thank you Penn very much. Melody McIntyre, Kay Neal, thank you. Catherine Van Auken, thank you. Kirsten Saxton, yay Kirsten, and Julie H, thank you. And Juliet Martin, a lovely person, edited her pledge up to the $3 level, which is where you get texts from me. So Juliet, I hope that you have signed up for that. If you have not, just go into Patreon and look at any of the essays, and it tells you in there how to sign up for those text messages from me, which people like getting, and you can text me back. And I really, really enjoy doing that. So thank you to everyone who follows along on Patreon. I hope you are enjoying the essays about moving to New Zealand and about existentially a little bit bigger than that. Like, what the hell does it mean to make such a big move at midlife and leave behind everything that you know? Thank God for writing. How do non-writers get through the world? How do they get through a life without writing? I was super upset about a very, very small thing. It was not matrimonial. It was an outside issue. And when I say super upset, like I was annoyed. For me, that's pretty upset. And I went to bed annoyed. And I went to bed thinking, I cannot wait to write in my journal because I'll fix it then. And in the morning, I was still annoyed. And I wrote in my journal and I realized, oh, there's nothing to be upset about. Writing about it got me to understand the thing I hadn't been able to understand, to make it not annoying anymore. How do people function without that? So I think that we are just a very, very cool subsection of people that get that extra tool. So I hope that you are using your tool, that you are putting it into service of your life, of your heart, of your happiness. Only you can do that. If you're not doing it, don't beat yourself up. That's the worst thing you can do. If you are not writing, stop beating yourself up and just write for 10 minutes. Write something terrible, something awful, terrible words that will let you down. That is fine. That's what they're supposed to do. That's normal. Write for 10 minutes and then you get to feel smug that you did a little bit of writing, and it will make you happier. So that's my prescription to you today from the inside of a bathroom. The next time we talk, who knows where I'll be? I think I'll be in Auckland in an apartment, but anything could change. So happy writing, my friends. Please enjoy this interview with Mark, and we'll talk to you soon. Well, I could not be more pleased to welcome to the show Mark A. Alvarez II. Hello, Mark.
Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for having me today.
I'm so excited to have you. So excited to talk to you. Let me get you a little introduction here. Mark A. Alvarez II is Hispanic-American, born in Houston, Texas. I have a lot of friends in Texas, in Houston, actually. He's a graduate of Texas State University, where he studied public relations and mass communications. He is a graduate of the New Apprenticeship, the first tech apprenticeship program accredited by the United States Department of Labor. And he is the CEO and founder of Light Wings Promotions, LLC, a digital marketing and creative branding agency based in San Antonio, Texas, where Mark currently resides. And Dutybound is his first novel. So welcome to the show. Congratulations on your release. Tell me again when it came out.
Actually, it's not out yet. It's coming out on June 22nd. We're taking pre-orders right now. You can, you can go and find it on my website. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Also saw it over on Amazon. And by the time this podcast goes live, because I'm pretty booked out right now, your book will be live and you will be an author already. So how does it feel to have your first book coming out?
It feels absolutely amazing just because, I spent so much time on it. I mean, I've been working on this, and it's really hard to believe. I've been working on this book since I was a kid. I was about 14 when I started writing it. Even you can even say before then, because I had some source material. Like, I was actually sort of dreaming of designing a video game whenever I was younger. But it was the day I finished reading Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows that I decided that I wanted to write this book. And I remember that day because like as soon as I closed the book, I was like, I can't believe it's over. Like my Harry Potter journey is
Yeah.
over. And I was like, I need to start my own. And that's how Duty Bound,
I
the seeds for Duty Bound started to
I
be planted.
love that. And all these years later, so what are you going to do to celebrate when your book comes out?
Well, my mom is planning a small get together. I saw a little launch party for me with close friends and family. I'm inviting some people from my, high school and some people that I grew up with, people that I haven't caught up with in a long time. Because, it's like a homecoming. I
Yeah.
left home and did what I was sought out to do. And I'm coming home, finally fulfilled, finally reached the dream. And there's still much more work to do, but that's the way I'm treating it is, a homecoming. And I'm a champion. I'm triumphant, victorious, and
I love that.
finally glad that I, achieved my dream.
Returning home triumphant. That's awesome. Okay, so this podcast is a show for writers about the process of writing. So it sounds like you do a lot of things in a lot of different areas. How do you get the writing done? However, how do you fit that into your life?
So it's so odd. So writing to me is more like a compulsion. It's an
Mm,
odd obsession. Uh, it's kind of like, a coping mechanism. I don't think there is a day that goes by where I don't write. I'm, either writing a poem, poetry, something I'm really keen into, or writing in my journal. But it comes to me in random spurts of inspiration. Mostly when I write, I listen to music,
mm.
and the words really come when I'm listening to these melodies, and the words themselves are evoked from various songs that I listen to.
Oh, cool.
They're pretty hand in hand. So
So you do
my
listen
pro
to
my
music with words while you're doing that?
no,
No. Okay.
no. The music
I
that I
can't do
listen
that
to when
either.
I write is without words.
Yeah.
Usually it's from a video game score, a movie
They're the
score,
best.
or a classical song that I like. I have various, different, places that I pull from for various sources of inspiration. And that's what sets my writing process. Is usually I
Mm.
set the tone using a song, and I use it to sort of like, and even establish the pacing and the rhythm. It's quite it's quite the process. It's very important part of the process. I cannot write without it. It's the ultimate muse for me, at least.
Do you have different sounds for different parts of what you're writing, or is it just all kind of rotating? Do you have soundtracks?
So yeah, like right now actually I have a campaign running on Twitter where I have my poems that are going out, and a lot of my poetry a lot of my poetry is very thematic. Like a lot of my writing is very thematic, and
Mhm.
I think I do have a very unique style, and I write about certain things that are very close to my value system, my belief system. And the same with Duty Bound. And they're very intertwined, and a couple of the poems are even featured in Duty Bound, because the main character, she is, she writes hymns and she writes poems and songs, and she's a singer. And it's I have there's two poems that's featured in the beginning and the end, and they're both on my website. But the songs, I call it my poetry playlist, because I've been posting these posts to my Twitter, and I use the hashtag poetry playlist, and I on each of my poems I featured the song that inspired it. So
I
that way, if
love
you listen to
that.
the song while you also read the poem, you can see its influence and how it's established the tone, the pace, and the rhythm, and how the words sort of speak to or communicate what the song is trying to communicate, more or less from my interpretation.
I have never
Uh,
heard anybody do that, and I think that that is absolutely fascinating. What is your Twitter handle?
it's M.A. Alvarez, ALVAREZII.
Perfect. I'm going to
So
be checking that out. I'm newly back into poetry and pretty excited about it after getting burned in grad school, but now I'm like dipping my toes into it again. And it's just, I just read an amazing poem like 5 minutes ago. So that's awesome. So what is your biggest challenge when it comes to writing?
um, so yeah, I don't want to sound like super pretentious, but I don't think I've ever really had a real problem or struggle with writing, mainly because writing has always been an escape
Mm,
from the struggles within my life. Um, it's so easy to just like escape into my head and hide. My journal has always been like, I always write about it. It's always been my sanctuary, similar to how Lucia, when she writes, and my protagonist, that's her escape. She writes in her sanctuary and she writes these hymns, and they're her escape from her reality. So, it's so easy to escape and to your head and to hide, and my journal has always been my sanctuary, but because my biggest struggles I faced were always on the outside, didn't have the easiest life growing up. I you know lived through a lot, including a gunshot
yeah,
to the face.
that was in your publicist press material. Do you want to tell us about that gunshot that occurred when you were pretty young, right?
Yeah, I was 4 years old when it happened. It happened in a gas station.
Mm.
My younger brother was about to turn 2 the next month. He was only 1 at the time. The day was January 27th, 1997. And he found a gun in the gas station. And we were from a bad part of Houston. There was a lot of crime in that area. And they had a gun at the gas station to protect the store, essentially. But um, my mother at the time, she was seeing the man who was running the store,
Mm.
and we were there, and my brother was able to find the gun, and he was shot me with it while I was asleep,
Oh,
or in the back behind the counter. Still remember it very vividly, and everything afterwards, pretty vividly. But it's not the worst thing that's happened to me. I like to say sometimes that the getting shot was the best thing that happened to me, because it's instilled within me this sort of this drive and sense of purpose. I survived for a reason. I think
mm,
that like there's a duty for to fulfill, very much like how I write about duty in my book. Uh, it's very much, and I like to say that within each of my characters, there's a piece of myself, and there's a lot of anecdotal experiences that I drawing from what is it, inspiration from, and put into the book. And if people just knew me and like just knew how unbelievable some of the stuff that I've gone through is, then they would just like they would see it within the book itself. But I think that makes for a more compelling story.
absolutely. Yeah.
um but writing is my greatest joy, because it is in the darkest moments of my life where writing saved it, and it gave my life purpose and meaning, and always it always has, and I don't ever think it won't. I think that being a writer is very much my identity, because it's always been the way I've sort of communicated and had a voice even when I didn't have one.
I find that so
So
inspiring. How long have you been journaling?
since I was 8.
Me too. Me too. I have old journals, and I go in and out of it, but in the last year or so, I have really doubled down. And this morning, in fact, because I had a doctor's appointment, I had to skip it, and I have been feeling like jangly ever since. I just can't calm down because I didn't get my space on the page to process my own stuff. Do you do it in the morning? Do you do it all day long? When do you journal?
Oh, it needs to happen. And like I said, if I don't do it, I go crazy, because it's
Yeah,
my escape, and it's always, and like I said, it developed, writing sort of developed for me as like a coping mechanism,
yeah, definitely.
uh, I was, as a kid, I was like, kind of like locked up a lot, and I was always, um, I didn't really have much else other than my journal. So it was definitely a coping mechanism, and it was a way for me to sort of escape and uh to get away from what was of the things that were happening around me. And if we don't write, we go crazy, or at least for me, and you might feel the same way. And I mean, people write for different reasons, but uh for me, it's really the nighttime. I'm really a
Mm.
night owl, and I usually do right before bed. I'll put on a song, a melody, and based on my mood and how I'm feeling that day, and then I'll just write my feelings out and just write about my day and how things were going. and sort of like get into the state of introspection where I'm trying to analyze the things about my personality and about myself and how I'm changing, because there are things in my life that just affect me in different ways, and I really try to try to come to a place of understanding that. And I think I try to use that in my narratives as well. As it's good to understand your own character development, so that way you can understand how to develop characters too.
Oh, I love that. That is a really astute, profound statement. We have to understand how we change so we understand how our characters change. Just because I love the nitty gritty, how do you journal and how do you keep your past journals? Have you digitized them? Are they all in different notebooks? Do you have a particular favorite notebook?
I have stacks, and I mean stacks
I
of
do too.
journals.
So like I
And
mentioned, we're moving and I filled up box after box after box with these journals. I'm like, oh God, what if I lost them? You
I
know?
want to leave them to my, like I wanted to leave them to my kids one day. Like I think that, my journals provide tremendous insight, and it's interesting to go back and read things when I was like 13 or 14, and just to see how insightful and sometimes like I was like, how did I, like, as that young, how did I think like that? Like,
Yeah.
where did those words come from?
Maybe
And
because you were
when did I,
journaling.
you know, uh, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just it's just so weird looking back and seeing who your past self was, and
How, do you
it
mind if I
really.
ask you how old you are now?
I am 28.
Okay. You could pass for younger if you wanted to. So
I get that a lot. I get that a lot. My friends make fun of me all the time because I look super young.
so do you have a
I get
particular favorite kind of journal that you like to write in? Comp book or oh yes, please show for the people.
leather bound,
Oh,
and
lovely.
lineless usually. So I write in nothing but cursive and
Yeah. Oh,
lineless.
that's
I'm
gorgeous.
more of a mostly a I'm mostly a classical kind of guy when it comes to writing. I like leather bounds, with the strap, very much, old school. I just like that classical element.
Yeah.
So this is my favorite. My first journal though was shiny and blue, uh, just like my first book is. So it's kind
Oh,
of
that's
like
gorgeous.
there's a similar parallel, and I just thought of that. I was like,
I
that's very funny.
I love
That
that.
my first book was shiny and blue, and the cover, if you see the cover of Dutybound,
It's
it's
a beautiful
blue and
cover.
silver.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
a lot of
great
people
cover.
say that.
Can you share a craft tip with our audience of any sort?
So my favorite craft tip. So this is something that I really think, and it resonates with me, and based off like what I said so far, like and it's this quote by Stephen King, and I hope you know it. It's a little talent is a good thing to have when it comes to being a writer, but the only real requirement is the ability to remember every scar. And he
Mhm.
talks about how like art is like consists of the persistence of memory. And that's the thing, is that like understanding your own character development, the things that you've gone through, understanding how certain events affected you, and how those same events might have affected somebody else in your life differently. Like me and my brothers, we had pretty much the same upbringing, but we're all so different, and we've all taken different paths in life because those events have changed us in different ways. uh, and I really think that understanding is like, don't be afraid to draw on aspects, or to be vulnerable in your writing. And it's not about, like, in terms of the craft, I think it's really important to really understand that it's okay to talk about things, to have conversations about things that make you vulnerable. you
Yes.
know it's embrace that authenticity, because if you're trying to hide behind flowery language and over complex sentences, and you're trying to flaunt your stuff as a writer, but you're not really trying to connect it to someone, or tell someone the story, or communicate your story, or put that piece of yourself into the story, you're going to lose that sense of authenticity that's going to make your story more believable. And I think that like, to me, I love and to me, like I said, it's a coping mechanism. I'm not afraid to be vulnerable in my writing. My writing tends to be very dark, it's very solemn. And I think I read a review on Dutybound the other day, and they called it a solemn fantasy, and I don't know if they meant it in a good or bad way, but I was like, you know what, that's what it is though. It's because I like, I want people to, like, I'm a very deep person and I live through a lot, but there's a sense of light at the end of the tunnel, uh, like terrestrial is a very dark world, but the use of color is used throughout to illustrate light's persistence, light's consistent, what is it, presence
Mm.
within the world that they live in. So it's be vulnerable, don't be afraid to draw on those certain experiences that, you know uh you it's okay to cry when you write, talk about things that really touch you. When I wrote my ending, I drew on a particular memory that so like there's a part of it when we were in the revision process, when my editors back and forth, and we were already, and the ending was already written, but I wrote the ending, and there was this one scene, and I wanted it, to drive the emotional impact, but there's like a certain action that the protagonist takes that really happened, like in recently, like um, uh, when experiencing, I'm not going to try to do this as spoiler free as possible, but when
Yeah.
experiencing this event, this thing happened, and I thought it was like the most touching thing to see happen. Um, so I decided to write that in, and I was crying when I was doing it, and I'm even getting emotional
I can
thinking
hear
about it
the
now
in your voice.
because
Yeah, that's beautiful.
like because it was like the most touching thing ever saw, and it was a really sad moment in my family's life, um and I just thought it was like, and that bond, to have that bond and to illustrate that bond is in that particular way, it felt real and genuine and, and true to me. So I decided to write it in, uh because it was, it like if people were there and they saw what I saw, and they would understand the feelings, they would understand where I was coming from and what the
Mm.
character would be really feeling when, that they're doing that certain action.
And as a writer, you get to put that on the page. And I love seeing that vulnerability in you right now. And also, you're saying your book is solemn, and but there's the moments of light. And in the few moments that I've known you, I can see that your life has been that too, solemn with that. I mean, you're even wearing a yellow shirt. The color, the brightness is coming out of you. So, speaking of books, what is the best book that you have read recently?
So the best book that I've read recently, the last book I read was really good, and I mean, so I couldn't put it down. So the last book I read, and it's more recent, it's The Silent Patient by Alex Michael. How do you spell it? I feel like I mispronounce his name, but is it Michaelides or
I think it must be that. That's how I pronounce it in my head.
okay,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I've never
So
heard it.
so
Yeah,
yeah, like The Silent Patient by what is it, Alex
I
Michaelides.
thought that was great.
I mean, I love that book. Absolutely loved it. And the thing is that, and I don't know, it just kind of, and it's his debut novel, and he's a newbie writer too. And I mean, but it just blew me away because the type of precision and skill that he did in
Yeah.
crafting the story. Uh, so like he knows how to tell a good story, and he doesn't like overcomplicate it or pack it with like words you don't understand. And this the thing is, like, if you also like read up about him, is that he uses a lot of anecdotal
Mm.
experiences, like, he worked in a hospital, he, these story the story, somewhat like it's semi autobiographical, autobiographical, and he draws on that, but he doesn't overcomplicate the story, but tells it in a very simple, elegant, and easy to imagine, in a way that's easy to imagine. um and he's really good at doing something I know a lot of writers struggle with, is giving away too much, and he knows how to hold back.
Right.
And that is
To
something that,
pull you
like, as
through.
a reader, you want them to give you everything.
Yeah.
You want them to just hand it all to you, but it takes a certain amount of skill for an author. And like, as a reader, as a literary enthusiast, as someone who reads, so as an author, and you start writing, you think that's what the readers want because that's what you want, but really it's the opposite. You
Yeah.
want to hold as much back, and he knows how to hold back. And I know a lot of writers struggle to do that because they want what they want, and they want their cake and to eat it too. But I think that's what gave his twist and his turnaround, like the more impact,
Yeah.
and just made it all the more. I'm not giving away any
No,
spoilers,
you're
but
not.
that's what made it what it was because he knows how to hold back and how to really not give away too much. It keeps you hooked, it keeps you invested in the story, and it doesn't dilute the climax, and if anything it makes it all the more compelling, and it
Because
leaves you confounded.
it's the payoff. You've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this payoff. Yeah, I found the exact same thing with that book. Speaking of books, we're almost out of time, but can you give us the quick overview, a quick elevator pitch for your new debut novel?
Okay.
No, it's hard.
Well, to sum it up, Dutybound is a dark coming of age fantasy set in Terrestria. It's about a young girl who goes on a journey, and she sees the world for the first time, and it's a world of darkness. So it's about a girl's journey through a world of darkness, looking to find light when there isn't any. And basically, the light she's looking for, the characters are looking for, are within themselves, and they have to find the way to manifest that light, so that way they can fight the darkness that is threatening to destroy, everything that they hold dear. And it's all tied to this covenant and this there's this whole generational tie where it's the past and the present, and the generation, the sins of the former affect the generation afterwards, and it's up to even though, like, there's a lot of, like, it's sort of like there's these sort of undertones in terms of, like, how their political and social constructs are within Terrestria. But the illusion here is that, like, even as the generation of the former, even when the former generation makes mistakes and fails the second and the generation of the generation of the next should not lose hope, and that we can't save that world, because we can, and we can bring about the change that we want to see in the world, and that the world is not as hopeless as um, you know the previous generations can make it seem, especially when we have some leaders that fail us. So
It's a very timely book, I must say, too. Very, very timely. Mark, thank you for your time. Thank you for your writing. It has been a joy to talk to you, and thank you for the light that you have shown to us. Where can people find you online, or what's your website?
So I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm a digital marketer, of course, everywhere you can think of except for TikTok. I haven't jumped on that train yet. But you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And all of my handles are MA Alvarez, ALVAREZII. You type that in on the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn, you'll find me super easily.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. It was a joy to talk to you, and I wish you very happy writing.
Oh, you too.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.